after you arrived, Prime Minister Abe became Prime Minister. If I'm a small, medium-sized enterprise in the UK, I don't really know much about the Japanese market, but I've got a sense something is happening here. Can you give us a big picture of what really is happening?
I arrived in Japan last autumn, and there was quite a sense of stasis in the economy, that things hadn't really changed very much, and people generally weren't that positive about coming to Japan. I've seen a big change under the current government. The government has taken some quite bold and quite big decisions on economic policy. So they have boosted their monetary policy. They've pumped a lot, or the Bank of Japan has pumped a lot of money into the economy. The government has launched a wide range of different reforms which are aiming to promote growth, and we're starting to see some of the signs of that in the actual economic indicators, so that there are expectations among the Japanese people, the man on the street, of inflation is growing. Growth is picking up. They may well be the strongest G7 economy in this year, and there is an overall sense of optimism among people that I talk to, which definitely wasn't there a year ago. On Abenomics, Prime Minister Abe has tried to identify what are the growth sectors for Japan, where is growth going to come from in the future, and look at what Japan needs to do to stimulate growth in those areas. And in a lot of cases, it's about deregulation. It's about breaking down formal and informal barriers to competition within those sectors.
Tell me a bit about some of the trade negotiations that are going on that your team particularly get involved in, and again how that links to a British company looking for more business.
First of all, the Abe government is trying to negotiate a very wide range of trade agreements worldwide. So they have what's called the Trans-Pacific Partnership with the US. They're negotiating with the EU, which is particularly interesting for us in terms of the economic partnership agreement. They're also negotiating with other Asian countries, and their goal is for 75% of all their trade within the next few years to be going through those free trade agreements. So it's
That's a massive percentage, 75. What is it at the moment?
I think it's in the low 40%, I think, at the moment. So it's quite a big change. That has two sets of benefits, I think, for UK companies. One is the basic one you would expect from a free trade agreement. It involves reducing tariffs and reducing the taxes which are put on imports into Japan. So there's a direct, immediate benefit. But these agreements are also trying to tackle a second area, which is less related to taxes, but more related to regulations and to opaque business practices. And the EU and indeed US and other partners are trying to identify those and urge the Japanese government to eliminate those barriers. And I think all of that pressure from all of those different partners will lead to quite significant changes over the next few years.
And how quickly will those changes come through? I mean, if there's a deal for a European free trade agreement with Japan, when does that mean that it's cheaper to sell your particular processed good to Japan than it is now?
The parties haven't set the deadline for negotiations. My personal expectation would be that you might see an agreement within 2 years, which is quite a long way off. But the US negotiations and the Trans-Pacific Partnership are going much faster, and an agreement is expected on that possibly at the end of this year or early next. But because they're not targeted particularly at US firms, European and UK firms should benefit from the same opening up of the economy.
What this government's trying to do is open up some of those areas, deregulate some of those areas where they haven't been very efficient, and where I guess foreign companies that are world-beating should be able to find opportunities.
Indeed. And that could be in the energy sector, where the current energy market in Japan is very isolated. You have very small companies who operate in particular areas. The government is trying to open up that market, create a real energy market. Agriculture is an area where worldwide there isn't much reputation for Japanese agriculture. The current government is trying to change that. It's trying to liberalise the agricultural sector and promote exports from Japan. But that will also offer opportunities for British and other companies as well. On pharmaceuticals, on medical devices, there are talks about allowing medicines to be sold on the internet for the first time, for example. and a wide range of other sectors. They are looking at international practices. How does Japan do things differently? Why does Japan do things differently? Can we stimulate a more modern, more innovative economy, and trying to learn the lessons from overseas as well? It would be foolish of me not to mention that Japan is a country with a remarkably high level of national debt. It's 238%, but we've seen quite a courageous decision this year by the Prime Minister to increase consumption tax in Japan, which is an important first step towards that process.
Now, whenever consumption tax goes up, VAT goes up, that's not great for growth at that particular moment. So again, what does that mean for a company looking at this market? What will the stability be like in the course of the next first and second quarters of next year?
And what the Japanese government has tried to do is to couple the increase in consumption tax with quite a massive stimulus package, which is designed to soften the blow on the overall economy. And so the IMF and other international organisations expect that growth will fall next year, but that it will be cushioned by that stimulus package, and that over the year Japan's growth will be positive.